It is episode 32, and I'm taking a journey into the uncharted territory of a monologue kind of a podcast. It is Msomi, and I am the host of the Unfiltered with Msomi podcast. We basically engage in conversations that open the mind. So from time to time, I will have guests coming through so that we can engage in these topics of interest, which spill over into the society and communities and eventually to the world that we are bound in, basically. But this time we're taking a totally different stance. I'm going to be traveling this journey of my mind and just putting it on record so that perhaps someone in the future might just stumble across it and find it and be inspired by it for some odd reason. Today's date is the 27th of July, 2022. And it's the psyche, the mind, that is what has fascinated me over the few years, just looking back at things that I've been interested in. But this is obviously also influenced by people that I'm fond of, philosophers and people that are of inspiration. Just to mention a few, one who sits right at the top is Terence McKenna, and I'm going to broaden that in just a second. Just to mention more, Alan Watts is also there. Eckhart Tolle is one who has really changed my life dramatically because he concentrates on the self. These are just a few. There's more, and perhaps they'll be dropping as I carry on with this monologue. In any event, just going back to Terence McKenna, I came to know of him obviously through the aid of the internet. He is one who is just to mention his profession, is a ethnobotanist. Studies plants, preserving plants, indigenous plants, mostly plants that hallucinogenic, ones that bring about trips of the mind, where one explores the intellect, his soul intellect, and finds self-ego-dissolution. Psychedelics, magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, and DMT. These are naturally occurring substances that he has had a huge interest in and spoken about over the years, but not just talking about it in the sense of them being plants and how they should be preserved, but they are magical insights into the psyche and what they do once a person ingests these. Marijuana, that's one of them, weed as normally called. This is something that I've also explored majorly over the years, and it has also sort of shaped the way that I perceive the world and how I look at the experiences that I would love to have. So he's always advocated for the use, and though this might not be promoted, as one would want to engage these plants out of free will, out of wanting to. Some are definitely and still are illegal, but we're seeing a change in the world where we're moving into a more accepting kind of a stance. As you would notice, with marijuana here in South Africa, it's already accepted, and the laws are changing. A lot of awakening is happening now that people are even engaging the psychedelics like your magic mushrooms, but just to concentrate on what it does to the psyche as far as I've experienced it. There's a vision that we have of the world, or at least a view of it, which talks about if I look at it, at least from where I'm coming from, life is sort of fed onto us, as in we are walking on a template that has been preset, and this of course defines culture and the way that we find ourselves living today. You go back to history and you do research. I'm no expert, but if you do research with what we have available, you can definitely see that there are civilizations that go far beyond our comprehension. Even if history in itself is growing, you will see, and it's still happening, the ruins that are being dug up. There's always more and more that is being found, and even in that, in those findings, you notice that the complexity is just great. But there's a part of me that believes that we probably lost some kind of intelligence, because things that were created even back then, we seem to fail to be able to replicate, though we have achieved much ourselves. But there are technologies that are just far beyond our comprehension, and we have no idea how to come about it. Where does this come in my conversation? Culture has defined who we are and how we are supposed to live and conceive the world and carry ourselves. It is good, of course. You need structures so that you can carry the business of the day. But in latent years, when people didn't have, or maybe did have cultures, but which were far different from the ones that we have today, they're still able to strive, and they pretty much lived a life that was also satisfactory to them and was good for them at that time. Obviously, change and religion and everything that has been introduced, it has sort of chiseled us down to the scale where we are right now, where we feel that we might have reached the epoch of evolution. It is definitely moving in the right direction. We are changing faster and faster, and the human intellect is seemingly moving out of the body that we wear as human beings, but into a more digitized, computerized kind of a mental state where ideas are stored in technology, and they grow from that point. So perhaps this is the next evolution of men. So with Terence McKenna, he advises the use of psychedelic components, because what they can do is sort of cut you from the noise of the norm, the noise of what we have referred to as our way of living, which hasn't been that great for us. If you look at the status quo in the society, people are unemployed, people are depressed, and people are totally dependent. Our youth really is totally dependent on alcohol. These are escapes that will tell you that everything is fine. I don't care about tomorrow. Anyway, I'm fine right now. But this is detrimental, because we cannot build anything that moves us forward. We're basically crippling ourselves. We're cutting our legs with hope that we'll still be able to rise, which is impossible from that point. Identity of one, or at least self-identity, is questionable. Everyone is lost. Everyone is wondering how I'm going to get to the next point. Some are just getting by, and hence this thing of depression that we've found to be going on a rapid rise. People are seemingly losing hope in the systems and the structures that have been placed before them, and for this reason, they're looking for alternatives. And the alternatives that have been made available, the ones that are legal, your cigarettes, your alcohol, being the normal ones that you get from over the shelf in a store, convenience store. You run to your opioids, where people use cocaine, heroin. These drugs are definitely going to inhibit or at least enhance the way that you feel in the moment. But because they have a dependency trigger, you find yourself having to rely on them. Obviously, this is not something new. It's known. Totally different from what you get when you engage perhaps psilocybin, magic mushrooms, which is an interest of mine also, because it sort of puts a pause on the normal way of engaging your daily day and how you carry yourself, and the culture in itself. It cuts you out, and you find yourself in a space where all the boundaries are lost. It's a boundary dissolution. It does that. It kills the self identity that one is always concerned about, which is the personality that one carries. One who believes they have that kind of an essence. You step back and you realize that, well, everything is kind of connected. Every single thing cuts across, and these geometric patterns and the images that one engages while tripping give you the sense that there's a greater purpose in this whole machinery, and you are insignificant. Ego dissolution, it kills the ego. It makes you feel like much as you are important, but you're just a small fragment of the whole thing. And there is no separation or difference between any one of us. And the culture that we're influenced by is driving us away from that utopia of just being free and allowed rather to bloom and blossom on your own. So McKenna and Carl Jung also brings this up in Carl Jung, philosopher. He was right there at the top of the psyche. The psyche. He went hard on that, as he was worried about the fact that we are sort of only influenced, not only rather, by things in our past, which have stuck in our psyche, our traumas, our past experiences. Those are not the only things that shape us. There are archetypes that are hidden, things that, if I may make an example, where you close your eyes and you see these images that are definite. You can sort of map them out, and they have a profound explanation if you bring them into the conscious. If you really can find them and bring them to the conscious, they tell you more about yourself, and that's how you can fix these things. Buddhas, yoga, Buddhas will speak about yoga and the benefits of it. The fact that you can concentrate to a point where you can transcend and your consciousness is, or at least what has loosely been called, your third eye is opened, because then at that point you are able to find yourself and rid yourself of all ills and believe truly that you are not as important as you would hope to be, but basically just a component of a bigger machinery. There is no boundaries. All the boundaries that we are bound by are things that were man created, and culture has been chiseled out of that, and now we are basically just having to live them out because we don't have an alternative. Rather, we actually do. It's just that we have forgotten. But it is true that one, even in his own stance, if you just sit there and for a moment close your eyes and just sit back, there are these memories that, well, at least there's this thought that usually comes and overtakes you, where you feel like there's somewhere back there in the archetypes, somewhere right at the back there, the alchemical side of things, where you come from, a place that you don't know but is there. There is a better place that you've experienced, but you sort of disconnected from it, and you feel lost. And this is what people are yearning for, that connection, because we're on a buzz, we're busy. You've got your job, you've got your children, you've got all these things which are excellent and definitely required, and you can't escape them. But anyway, what you find is that you become so inundated with the daily busyness that you sort of neglect yourself, only to find that when you get a moment to reflect, you realize that you've hurt yourself badly. You put the foot off the pedal on your end of the bargain while you're trying to satisfy other people's lives. But obviously this is quite detrimental, and these are the things that bring about this notion of, I cannot take it anymore, I cannot go on. I'm no expert, but in my personal outlook, I've noticed that there are things that are hammering, that make one feel that there's something better that is out there, that there's a yearning almost that just sits at the pit of your stomach. It's just that it really, really, really becomes almost impossible when you forget who you are, because you can't connect to that inner child. You can't connect to the truth. You can't find the root cause of your unhappiness. So to be able to find the root cause of your unhappiness, one really needs to disconnect. This is why breathing techniques, yoga, psychedelics is able to do, because it takes you out of the noise and you are in the galaxy. You're thrown and cast off into another plane where your sensory perceptions also they become enhanced, and you sort of with a very fine brush, able to polish and see what is hidden and where the pain is coming from, and how you can sort of look at it this time and be able to fix it. Eckhart Tolle concentrates a lot also on the sense that because we have lost our ability to connect with our conscious self, we basically just going on a autopilot mode where we are influenced by outside stimulus, and that carries us through our day. Honestly, there is something that you can find within yourself just by a simple moment where you can close your eyes and concentrate on the sounds that you are hearing at that moment. Don't name them or don't even picture them. Just listen to the sound and hear that is a sound. And if that has a definition in your head and you're able to pick it up at that moment, you are not thinking. And this is his advocation here, Eckhart Tolle. He advises that one needs to stop, or at least find a way to be able to stop the constant thoughts that pour into one's mind or a state of being, which ends up removing you from the presence and casts you into something that happened last year. And if you encounter it again, you sort of have to try and find your way to, this is how I handled that situation, maybe it didn't work, this is how I should handle it. Every single time that we are disconnected from the present moment, we are basically thinking about the future, which is not here, or the past, which is also not here, while we remain on the present and in the present plane. So finding self and being able to remove the noise in our heads, finding ourselves and being able to remove the thoughts in our heads, gives us the tranquility that we require. It reminds us of the child within. It reminds us of free will and all the connections that we can make, and the conscious beauty of this place that we find ourselves. We're so privileged to be a part of this planet and to be here at this moment in time and right now. But we can heal ourselves. We can heal ourselves in the deepest sense by just removing the cloud and the veil and the noise of what the culture has influenced us to concentrate on, the culture that has chiseled us to these unhappy souls and beings. To remember how it was when we had conversations. These things still happen when there's load shedding and you sit with your family there and your phones aren't charged and you're sitting in darkness with one candle. You're able to connect and talk once more and find out how your sister, how your friend is feeling, either than technology, which is a great thing, but has sort of made enemies, not just enemies, but people are oblivious to a person sitting right next to them because they are in Johannesburg talking to their friends. Maybe this is where we are moving as an artificial intelligence species evolving. That's where we're moving. If this is the future and this is where we are headed, we need not forget that the bio still remains, and the human intellect is the most intelligent computer there ever will be. And data can be wasted unless you feed on the right things and you think on the right things and you take care of yourself. So, as Eckhart Tolle would say, shut the noise off, concentrate on the present moment, and your awareness will open and broaden. I love that man. He speaks well. But you can take it back to Terence McKenna, who was really at the top of the list. He advises that with the aid of these naturally occurring substances, one can find what religion promises. One can find what lies on the other side, which is a feeling that we have, but you have no idea how to open the door to get there. Psychedelics, magic mushrooms themselves are the one thing that I've found, not wanting to push the agenda of people having to go for it. You don't have to. But what they were able to do for me is really put me on a space where I could notice that I'm privileged to be here, that my name is befitting, that there is no mistake. yes, life complexifies, and as it moves forward, it gets more complex. But this is just the nature of things. This is how it unfolds from a child, which is unable to talk, which is unable to perform normal things by himself without an aid of a parent or a guardian, to a person who is able to implement ideas and erect a ship, erect things out of architecture, from that simple organism to something that is complex in the sense. This is what a human being can do, and this is what the mind can do. But you need to connect with yourself to remember, and with the aid of these plants, these naturally occurring plants. No reason for God to have made them, but they're here. You are able to go back and fix scars from the past and trauma. You are able to envision something in the future and plan to work towards it. And the visions that one gets, the most amazing thing is geographical and geometrical shapes and ecological systems, flowing rivers, hexagrams of heaven. These things are there in your mind. Within an hour of taking mushrooms with your eyes closed in a dark room, as Terence usually prescribes, 5 grams, dried grams, on an empty stomach, you are able to find yourself in a universe that is somehow familiar, yet strangely out there and wild, because you know for a fact that you've never been there, but there's something that tells you that I've been here. The galaxies, the stars, the emojis, things that come up from nothing and spring out of nowhere and mutate. The experience is very hard to bring back to the normal, but to this consciousness. But in actual fact, it is something that can be achieved by anyone, even without the aid of psilocybin or any of these hallucinogenics. One just needs to find a technique to shut out the noise so that you can concentrate on the present moment, so that you can see what possibilities lie within you. Because we look for the world out there for answers, whereas the answers are already within us. I'm going to go on with this. It's going to go on forever. And I really just appreciate the fact that I'm able to share my thoughts with you. It's so much that we still need to share. And it's a privilege, really. But there is a lot out here. Nature will tell you that the truth is really out here. It's just that we sort of want to compete with nature, forgetting that we are products of it. Another example that has been made in the past, I'm going to remember the person who made it. He advocates that if apples are a fruit of a tree, then basically we as human beings are fruits of the planet. There is no difference between us or any of the animals that you find out there. They have abilities that we don't have. We have abilities that they don't have. This is the complexity and robustness of nature, as it were. It's complex, and it loves novelty. It produces and overproduces. It yields and yields. This is nature at its best. And obviously, when there's barren land called deserts and it's dry, you can rest assured that there is something wrong in the ecosystem. And even if you do the research, you will definitely pick up that there are minerals essential that are missing. But if you move towards the Amazon, if you come to Africa and you look at vegetation and the robustness and the number of different species that are just lying in abundance, you find that definitely God is there and nature is present at best, and it loves that. And that's what a human being is. If you look at everything that makes him, it's the same components, it's the same ingredients that make the same juice. We're made of the same juice. We star people that have transcended from space and time, and with the aid of these plants, one is able to go back home and say, this is where I belong, this is where it has to be, this is the truth. Msomi, signing out. Thank you so much for listening.